on the shoulder. Guys don't talk about the weight. They don't talk about the pain they feel.
Right.
They keep pushing on. But there's a point where they push on and it's unbearable to continue, but you continue anyways. But you're destroying yourself from the inside out, right?
So do you believe in, do you think that as a couple you should do individual counseling first or go through couples counseling when you're in this type of space?
Yeah, you always got.
I don't know if it's what you did, but is this what you would do if it was to be again? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's your thoughts?
I would if I had to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes this is difficult for both parties to agree upon.
Yeah.
But you need to do it together.
Right.
You have to go through the counseling together.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because when you
Welcome back to the Reset with Nat podcast. My name is Natalie Walters, and I am excited for another episode today. Now, let me listen. I always do this to you guys. I tell you a story about my guests because, if you're going to be on the podcast, I need to make sure that 1, I trust you. 2, I value what you have to say because you're sharing information with my audience. And 3, you're a vibe. I can catch a vibe with you. Mm-hmm. I can't be in awkward situations. You understand? Because I don't do good with awkward, but face to show everything. So with that said, today's guest is actually a long time friend. Gangram, how long we known each other?
Well, I'm 46 this year, so at least 40 years, maybe longer.
Jesus, you hear that? Now, Stephen Gangram is here in Canada with me because he is, living in Atlanta?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. So we've known each other for about 40 years, maybe 38, 40 years, whatever. But the thing is, we did have a space in between our friendship where there was a little bit of lost time,
mm-hmm.
right?
Life just went different directions for each of us, right?
Life went different directions, but there was no bad blood,
mm-hmm.
right? I was a little hurt because, listen, you hear how long you known somebody, you'll miss that person. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm so happy to know that we can sit here today
right.
and have a wonderful conversation.
Right.
So, Stephen Gangram, I'd like to thank you for joining me on the Reset with Nat podcast. Today's conversation is going to be excellent.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me. I feel very honored to be here today.
Oh. Well, today, the conversation today is about a few different things. So, Stephen, it's like that friendship, long friendships that you have, and then time in between, and then reconnecting. And Stephen and I reconnected on a very similar note, just, hey, what's up? Facebook will do a good thing. Mm-hmm. But then we also really started connecting because we both are entrepreneurs, right? So Stephen ended up being like an accountability partner.
Right.
Right? And we started to talk about our journey. You started to tell me about life in Atlanta and then what had happened to you in the time that I hadn't seen you, mm-hmm. right? Mr. Gangram, why did you leave Canada?
I got married in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So I left Canada to get married and started life in the U.S. in 2008.
Okay. So, you know what? I kind of skipped and went over some things because, I knew Stephen from a long time ago, but I must tell you, I knew him from church. So PK, was your dad a PK?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
PK. So we were up in the church doing our thing. He was very much involved with the instruments. Mm-hmm. What did you play? Keyboard
and the Hammond organ to this day.
And you used to play the drums too, right?
That's where I first started, believe it or not. Yeah, it was the drums.
Yeah. So very talented in music. And then, from there, we also ended up working together.
We did.
As young adults.
That's right.
At a telecom company here in Canada. And that was also a nice experience because our relationship was like church, teenage, we had to Sunday school. We called it one on Fridays. We used to go to youth service. Uh-huh. And then we went to work together. And that was cool. We had another friend work with us there. And then after Stephen went on his way, and I went on mine. But yes, he went off to the U.S. He got married in 2008. Mm-hmm. That was a big decision to leave Canada.
It was.
And how did you, okay, so mindset
Mm-hmm.
at that time. Because one thing about this gentleman here is that he is very much a man of integrity, a man of his word. If he's going to do something, he's going to give it his all. So you making that decision to leave what you know and sacrifice for love.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like, making that decision?
Yeah, let me tell you where my mindset was then, and then looking back in retrospect, what I would have done differently. So I had left here, established with a great job, with a Fortune, 1,000 company in Canada. Had a lot of family, friends, had a network, had everything here set, and I left here to go live in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And the reason why I left is because my fiance at the time, you could see the stress on her face for her having to give up everything she knew in the U.S. to come live in Canada, even though she had a lot of family here in Canada.
Right.
I said, you know what, guys, we're kind of taught that no matter what, you provide for your family.
Right.
So you're going to make this thing work. So I said, okay, you know what? It's not difficult for me to make friends.
Yeah.
You know how
what is
it? You know how we grew up, very social people. It's not difficult for me to make friends. I'll go make new friends over there. That's not a problem.
Right.
But I wanted to shoulder the burden so that she wouldn't have to experience
the emotional
tough times
stress,
or depression or whatever, right? Because you got to remember, for Americans coming to Canada, the cost of living is higher.
Yeah.
Right? Everything is small. Food portions are smaller. Right? Right, it's expensive to buy a home. It's expensive to do this. Healthcare is different in Canada than it is in the U.S.
Right.
So it's a whole cultural change for them coming this way.
Right.
So I figured, I'll go over there and I'll learn everything about being an American, so I can shoulder that there. Now,
hold on one second. Because you see how giving, selfless. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, girl, I'll marry you, but you gotta come here, right? But Gangram was like, listen, I'm considering the well-being of the woman that I care about, and that's extremely important. But what did you think about yourself? And you did kind of say you were willing to take on whatever it is that the experience was, because you could have connected with people,
right? And
you obviously did a very good job. You were, in a good position. So getting another job, you know what I mean? So you were willing to take that on.
I was willing to take it on, but I will tell you this, it was against all the popular advice that I was getting at the time.
Okay.
Friends and family and professionals alike, don't make this move.
Really?
Bring her here because you're established, you can provide right away. Right?
Okay.
It would be easier for her to come this way because you don't have the battle of having to find a job and having to prove who you are again in a professional setting, right? People know your character, they know who you are, they know your skill set, they know the value you bring to the table.
Right.
So when I went across, it's easier said than done. It took me a year before I was able to legally work. So I didn't consider the processing of paperwork when you go over there.
Right.
So imagine now, as a newlywed, you're a man in a marriage, you're newlywed, you can't even provide.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was really difficult. If I had to do it all over again and look backwards at that, I would have stayed here and brought her here.
Okay.
Because I was established. If you cannot take care of yourself first, you're not in a position to take care of somebody else.
Right on.
It just can't work that way.
Yeah.
Right?
So that year, what was that journey mentally?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I hit depression, although I didn't admit it at the time.
Right.
But in talking to other people, there's another good friend of ours that lived here, and he moved to Connecticut.
Okay.
He got married in Connecticut, and I reached out to him when I moved there, and I said, hey, I'm in Pennsylvania now and whatnot, and I gave him my story, and he said, you need to make friends as fast as possible, get connected as quickly as possible, because it's a tough road ahead. It's not as easy as you think it is, right? So there are moments I hit depression.
Right.
Right? It was so bad my fiance, and then eventually she became my wife, was a nurse. She would work 7 at night to 7 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
So she had that midnight overnight shift.
Yeah.
So I would sleep in the day with her when she came home, and I'd be up late at night.
Oh.
When I was up late at night, it got to a point where I had no human interaction with people. I used to go to Walmart just so that I could be around people and have interaction.
Okay.
I mean, who are you going to interact with at midnight at 1, 2, 3 o'clock
True.
in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I went to a 24-hour Walmart just so I could be around people and maintain some sort of mental sanity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I had nothing to occupy myself in the daytime where I can say I can be productive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So this is in a time where obviously, now look at this. If it was back in the days, remote work, I mean, if it was now, remote work would be something that you could have occupied yourself with and at least kept, you know what I mean, your income. So, I mean, it's not to say that it cannot work now,
Right.
but there's a planning and an understanding of
There
what
is.
the process is like if you're going to make that move.
And
right?
you really have to weigh out
Mm-hmm.
and consider everything, including talking to people who are there that may have made that journey earlier before you, right?
Right.
You know, I've always heard the saying that experience is the best teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The caveat there, though, is that it doesn't have to be your experience that's the best teacher.
Yes.
You can learn from someone else's experience
Yes.
what to do or what not to do.
Yes.
Right? So somebody else can say to you, hey man, there's a trap up around that corner right there. Don't go around that corner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to experience it myself, but I can live through your experience and prevent it,
Yeah.
right?
So you know who told me that?
Who's that?
When I was younger? Mr. Gilbert.
Oh, really?
He said,
Okay.
Walters, you know, a smart person learns from their experience, but a brilliant person learns from somebody else's.
That's powerful.
And I'm like, yeah, okay. Because back in the days, I was just like, yeah, whatever. You know, I was doing my thing. But let me tell you, some things that some people say, they say these statements, and at the time it may not hit you, but when it hits you, you will feel it. You know what I mean? You will feel
Very
it. You will
much so.
understand it. You know?
Very much
so.
so.
It's all about that information sharing, having moments of being vulnerable.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It was nice to know that you had somebody to reach out to that could say to you, listen, you need to get yourself socially engaged.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So depression, like, now, listen, there's one thing about me that is very, very, it has to be understood. As a lady, of course I'm going to stand up for women's rights. Respectfully, I'm going to stand up for women's rights. There's certain things I don't put up with. I do not put up with. But when it comes to the opposite sex, they need to be considered, protected, and understood as well. You understand what I'm saying? Not because I'm a good friend, Steven, I'm thinking about only well-being, mental health, and well-being for a man. But I'm thinking of this in general because there is a lot of trauma, undiagnosed trauma, a lot of speaking to women and how the woman's experience is. But men, what happens is the masking, right? And we don't want to have that anymore. We want to be able to hear you and have you hear us respectfully, right? So with that said, depression. As Christians, we grew up in church. So even
Right.
for myself, there was a point where I went through a whole confused state with spirituality.
Right.
Because my thing was, feelings that you have, it's not depression. You're not depressed.
Right.
You know, that's not what you're supposed to say. But actually, yeah,
Right.
that's what that is. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I think having that faith in God and just having, you know, like they say, as small as a mustard seed,
Right.
having a little bit of hope,
Right.
and having, you know what, somewhat of a support system. If you do, it's important. If you don't have it, I never went for counseling, but when I was in those darkest moments, it was like that ounce of faith to keep going.
Right.
So obviously you are no longer married right now, right?
Right.
Okay.
Divorced now.
You're divorced and you're living in Canada, or you're still over there?
So I moved from Pennsylvania to Atlanta in 2019, and I currently reside in Atlanta.
Okay. And would you say that that year of you being depressed was the hard part of, or what may have led to divorce?
I would say this, that it was the moment where reality really happened for me. You know, there's the fantasy of getting married, there's the fantasy of starting a new life, a family and all that stuff. There's the fantasy of it.
Right.
But when, and I'm going to feel like my father with these things, but when the rubber hits the road, right? And the reality of it's more than just a thought and a dream.
Yeah.
Like there's real stuff you got to put into this on purpose, intentionally. You got to wake up every day and say, you know what? Regardless of me feeling tired or feeling busted up or broken, I still got to put effort in to make this thing work. It's like it's like caring for a newborn baby. It doesn't matter how you feel as the parent. You have an obligation that you have to meet.
Yeah.
Right? And so I would say that going down that road, now truly, if I was to be honest with you, I experienced depression as a child growing up.
Okay.
But thought it was just me having low self-esteem or me being overly sensitive to somebody saying something to me.
Okay.
Right? So I dealt with racism here in Canada.
You did?
While I went to school.
Okay.
So I don't know if I shared this story with you, but I went to a Christian school here in Toronto. And in my middle school years, I had my clothes ripped off of me. I was trampled on. I was spat on. And then on the blackboard, they wrote down some racial things on the blackboard for the rest of the class.
And this is at the Christian school?
This is at the Christian school.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. And I remember feeling so disgusted with myself in who I was, and I wish I didn't look the way that I did. You get what I'm saying? I wish that I wasn't part of the community that I was. I wish I was part of a different community, the one that was making fun of me, right? And so from then, I started feeling things of depression, of low self-esteem, of feeling less than.
Right.
And that carried on through much of my life, very much of my life. But when I moved to the U.S., and that depression hit, that was totally different. But I'll tell you what, it brought back all the feelings of what I had in the past. You know what I mean? And it started to pile on now.
Unhealed childhood trauma.
Exactly. And then now your self-worth, you start questioning your self-worth again, right?
Yeah.
Here I am in this position here now. I'm supposed to be a provider. I can't even provide, right? Why did I make this move all the way here? Now here's the thing. Along with that, I was supposed to be getting support from what was supposed to be my family around me, right?
Right.
But when you don't get that support, it makes it even worse. So now, as a guy, I feel like I'm all alone. I feel like I don't have the support. Who's going to understand what I'm going to say?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the feelings of, well, I can't share because no one's going to relate, or they're going to shut me down. You know what I mean?
Or I told you so.
I told you so.
Because I'm wondering, because I mean, outside of, I just want to know, like, is that why there was that disconnect when you left?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you disconnected yourself because it was like, no, people had told me don't go. And I don't even want, because our network was so close.
It was very close.
That you don't need, word travels real quick.
Fast.
And you don't need that.
Right. And
right?
it wasn't I was afraid of word traveling. It was that I was ashamed of my position.
Okay.
I was ashamed of where I ended up. Right? And now if people were to find out where I ended up, it's a shameful thing to a guy especially, right?
Right.
You know, look at what happened to Steve. He went over there and he can't do nothing for himself now. You know what I mean? So it was a shameful thing. That's why I cut off a lot of my ties with that. My parents didn't even know what I was going through.
Okay.
Kept it from them too.
Because you want to protect them also. Because one thing about parents, they could worry.
Yeah, protect them, but also I was of the mindset then. This is my business.
Okay.
Right? I don't need to involve my parents.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm grown now. I'm out of the house now. I have my own family now. I don't want to mix them into this here. I'll keep them at the periphery on a need-to-know basis, right?
Right.
Because I don't want their influence in something that's supposed to be ours starting off together. Does that make sense?
And you know who? It does make sense because, okay, so another one of my family members, that you know, she had said to me, listen, when you have your relationship with your man, you make sure if you have a big problem, you don't tell nobody, because when you make up with your man, and then everybody else is going to remember that bad time. They're not going to like that person. And then you're going to be back in love, and that's a problem. And I was like, okay. Like, honestly, I was just taking in all this. It's like they would drop certain gems on me, and I'd be like,
Right.
okay, I got to go live. I got to go party. But the thing is, as an adult in a relationship, yeah, you have to be very mindful of what it is that you share. Because what if there was that corrective period that could have happened, right? You don't need any bad blood coming from them in between a time where you don't even know what's happening.
That's right.
But at the same time, the one thing that is very important is having someone to make sure that you have someone to speak with, an outlet, you know, a close friend. If it's not a close friend, get a counselor. I understand we're Christians,
100%.
we have to have God in our lives, we can pray, but you have to have a human being to speak to.
I'm a big advocate for counseling.
Okay.
Big advocate for counseling. And if you prefer, have a faith-based counselor.
Right.
But someone who is trained clinically on how to counsel.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's very, very important. And it's something we don't talk about in our community because when we think about mental things, we think about that as a sign of weakness, especially for men.
Somebody you the one cookie.
Right.
The person's crazy.
Right, he's crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And people start forming their opinions, and we're grown up to believe you just need to snap out of it.
Right.
It's more than just snapping out of it. When that weight of the world is on your shoulders, and from a guy's perspective, when the weight is on the shoulders, guys don't talk about the weight. They don't talk about the pain they feel.
Right.
They keep pushing on. But there's a point where they push on, and it's unbearable to continue, but you continue anyways. But you're destroying yourself from the inside out, right?
So do you believe in, do you think that as a couple you should do individual counseling first or go through couples counseling when you're in this type of space?
Yeah, you always got.
I don't know if it's what you did,
Yeah.
but is this what you would do if it was to be again? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's your thoughts?
I would if I had to do it again. And sometimes this is difficult for both parties to agree upon.
Yeah.
But you need to do it together.
Right.
You have to go through the counseling together. Right? Because when you enter into marriage, you don't belong to yourself anymore. You belong to the other person belongs to you. And it's not a 50-50, it's 100-100. Right? You're going 100 all the way, the other person's going 100 towards you, right?
Yeah.
It's 100-100. So if I belong to you and you belong to me, then I can't let you go through this alone.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for guys, we don't like to burden other people by saying I'm going through this, right?
Right.
But let me talk to the guys. You need to let people know, especially those that you trust. If you're in a relationship, you need to let that person know, let that woman know what it is that's hurting you, that's causing you stress, that's causing you to feel burdened mentally. Because if you don't verbalize that, they're not going to know how to help you, right? In no way, shape, or form. They won't be able to identify what the signals are. Like you need to be able to say, hey, look, when I feel like this is what I feel like doing. And then they can just tell when you walk in the door by your demeanor, right? Okay, something's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's and I want to piggyback off of that statement. I respect the fact that you are saying to the gentleman, listen, communicate. You know what I mean? Because sometimes a person is so wrapped up in themselves that they don't recognize your signs. They're looking for certain things that they like and they enjoy. And other things just look like what's not going good. But not knowing what's not going good is based on certain things that are happening within their life. So having that conversation is important, but then also us being the other half, it's also saying, listen, I notice you're not going on good. What's going on? You're acting different.
Right.
What's going on? I know that sometimes women do ask questions, and maybe men do ask questions to each other, but in that moment, you see that thing where you talk about, like you were saying, you don't necessarily want to involve the other person because they're looking weak, even though it's your 100% other person. You still don't want that other person to know your feelings. But let me tell you something, if you are going into a relationship with someone, you got to open up your mouth, man. You're talking about living together, sleeping together, enjoying your sleeping together, making children. This impacts how the family dynamic grows.
Yeah.
It impacts what the children see and how they interpret a relationship, how they see themselves, because they see themselves in one of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a saying in the military, when you're covering someone's back, they say, "I got your six."
I got your six.
I got your six, and it's from the clock. When you look at the clock,
Okay.
12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. If you're
Oh,
facing forward,
yeah.
I got your six. I got your back, right? If you're not being transparent
Right.
and sharing, somebody can't have your back.
Right on.
They got to know what they're going to have.
Yeah.
How can I cover you, right? And that communication needs to happen. Now, I will say this for the women. Create an environment that allows the man to feel safe to share.
All right. So we want to create an environment so that way
The men can feel safe to speak,
safe.
right? One of the things that men need is men need to know that they're respected, right? And that they're not looked at as being punks. Even if the man is...
Simp nowadays. That's the word. Simp.
Simp?
You're
No,
a
they say
simp.
you're a simp.
I hear it on the internet.
Oh, okay. Well, they don't want to feel like simp, right? Right? So they want to feel respected. They want to know that they're loved and respected, right?
Right.
And that they're valued, right? So if the guy comes home and he's not in the mood to talk, don't push it.
Okay.
Women are ready to talk at any time.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what the situation is. For them, they have to be able to talk. That's
Yes.
that's the thing. Men are wired differently. They're processing things differently, right? Give him a moment to relax and let him take down his defense mechanism, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to smother him. That doesn't mean that you have to be overbearing. Just give him the moment, whatever that is. Maybe he needs to come home, take a shower. Maybe he needs to just sit down for a minute and watch TV for a half an hour. Don't let him watch all night, but he needs something to decompress when he comes home. It's like he's coming home and there's a boulder on his back that you can't see.
Okay.
But he is shouldering the pain of carrying this boulder. The pain is so much that he's like, I can't talk right now. I'm dealing with this pain. Give me a moment to put the boulder down, let the pain go away. Now I can focus on talking.
So, because there's going to be women listening to this thing and saying, well, I give him some time. But this man does not communicate.
Yeah.
And he goes into this state where he's not helping me.
Right.
Usually doesn't do too much in the first place. I do a lot of it. I have to take care of the kids, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So how do you bust through all of that?
Yeah, that's
Because
that's
at the end
good.
of the day, the burden comes back on us, and it's like, listen here, man. I got
That's
my own
good.
set of problems.
Right.
On top of it, we have menstrual stuff that we have to
Right.
deal with. So dealing with my body and my transition and my imbalances, and then you're coming home with boulders that I
Right.
can't know about, and you're not going to talk to me about. So I'm a little irritable.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. So, that comes back to communication from the jump, right? Those are things that need to be communicated from the very beginning.
Right.
The man should be so in tune with his woman that he knows her cycle, right? He should know it. He shouldn't even have to ask.
Right.
If that is, you got to schedule it in your phone, whatever it is, it's coming up. You know that she's going to need some extra help, or you know what her signs are, what's going to cause irritability. You should know that stuff. If you got to schedule it out, right? But it's also the same with anything in the family. If you guys are talking about responsibility, who's responsible for what, that should be discussed a long time ago. That should never be something that's assumed.
That comes along, yeah.
We should not have to depend upon our cultural preferences, the way our families grew up, right? That's not the way that dictates how we're going to live as a family.
Right.
We need to sit down and say, okay, hey, look, I'm happy to do this, and this. Or maybe I don't want to do this. Do you like it? Find out who likes to do what. Wherever your passion is at, cover that first. But if you know your spouse absolutely hates to do something else, cover them.
You became aware of your depression. So we're gonna move from this space because you've given us enough gems to say, listen, if you're in a relationship right now and there's that hardship that's going on, or you're feeling it yourself, and you know that it's time to start speaking or pivoting or seeking counsel, please do so. But we're gonna pivot from this part of the conversation because there's so many beautiful things that has happened.
Yeah.
You had a son.
Had a son.
You have a son.
Have a son, yep. He's going to be 12 in September.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So how did fatherhood change you as an individual?
Yeah, all the things my dad used to say to me when I was growing up, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
All of those extra protective things that you ask your dad to do something, he says no, and you ask why. And he says, because I said so.
Right.
Now I understand the because I said so.
Right.
It's a protection thing. So the day my son was born, the day he was born, I decided I was going to get a gun.
Hey.
The day he was born.
Okay.
In the U.S., things are different.
Yeah.
Right? So I decided the day he's born, I need protection in my home. I have to assume that if somebody breaks into my house that they're armed, I need to at least level the playing field. Right?
Y'all, let's go on and don't joke.
I need to at least be able to protect my family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I ended up going and doing a handgun safety course.
Good for you.
Ended up buying 2 firearms, put them in safes inside the house. There's only one time I ever had to pull for it. And nobody was even there.
Uh-oh.
I thought somebody was there.
Yeah.
And I went to pull for it. Right? But I'm saying that to say that the day he was born, these protective instincts all of a sudden just were overwhelming. Right? I gotta protect, I gotta provide no matter what. And that becomes now the marching orders for the man.
Yeah.
In his mind, right?
Yeah.
Those are the motivating things that he has. I've gotta protect and I've gotta provide. Everything else comes secondary. And I'll tell you this, it's to our own fault. Even spending time with your family comes secondary. That's how we think. I'm not saying it's right. But what is driving us is providing and protecting. And we'll put everything else on hold, including our own health and our own well-being, right? To provide and protect.
Wow.
It's deep. It really is deep. When we really dissect it and we look at it, and you see a lot of fathers who are not happy in life because they're driven by this protection, provision that they have to do, right? That they don't talk about the areas where they need help. And like I was saying, when you get into these moments of depression or you're having moments of mental breakdown and you're not sharing with nobody,
Right.
it's damaging to you on the inside. So becoming a dad, I felt the weight increase immediately.
So this, because there's going to be somebody that watches and says, well, dear God, I didn't get no man like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ladies, you got to know how to pick them. Like Steven said, there's some questions. You got to have the serious conversations. It's not just all about the look. The man looked good. He took you to this place. Yada, yada. You're experiencing whatever. When you're going into a relationship and you're going to, sometimes you're not engaged. You're in a relationship. You end up pregnant. Conversations need to happen.
I gotta happen.
Paying attention to the person in advance of that to see the type of or the quality of person is important. Seeing what their family is is important because
that is so
we
big.
also mimic
That's right.
how you're raised, right? So for anybody that has an experience, what Steven is saying, he's not saying it's for that all men are that way, but speaking on behalf of the type of man that you are.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
respectable.
As I start talking more about this, I find out more and more I wasn't alone. Because more and more men are saying, yo, you too?
Yeah.
You were feeling that too? You went through that too?
Right.
And then now you're finding more and more guys have the same story. They relate to the same things, the same feelings, the same burdens that they've all had, right?
Right.
And the point is that we don't have to do this thing alone. There is help and support that's out there, right?
Right.
It's like saying you want to go to a doctor, right? If that doctor can't relate to you in any way, like if you've never given a needle before or never taken a needle before, I don't want you poking me.
Right on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the guys can relate to each other and they can help each other, almost like a support. Like you're talking about support systems, right? They can be support systems for each other.
Okay. All right. So Gangram, we were here, we were here, and then whoop across, boom, boom, family. But then there's a professional life.
Yeah.
Because here, you were doing big things at the telecom communication company.
Yeah.
And then over there, what industry did you go into?
I got back into telecom.
Okay.
Into communications. And had a great career for 14 years.
Right.
With a Fortune 50 company.
Okay. Fortune 50 is what they call it?
Well, the Fortune, the higher up you go in the list.
Okay.
Right. The more revenue those companies bring in.
Right.
So I was in a Fortune 50 company.
Okay.
And had a great run, a great career run, professionally. Was able to develop, learn new skills, and then I was trusted with more and more. And then I used to travel nationally, had national responsibilities.
Oh, nice.
In the U.S., was able to see over 20 states through
wow.
through that job.
Yeah.
And it provided a lot of.
Look at that! Don't go, Stephen. Don't go. Look at that.
Yeah. You know, really grateful for and then not even to mention the professional networking opportunities I had, you know, to build relationships and get to meet new people, different parts of the country and whatnot. But it was a great run.
It was a great run. So there was a word was. Yeah.
So last year, unfortunately, I was part of a reorganizational change, and I was let go after 14 years working with the company. Now, here's the interesting thing. You know, we talked about our faith and where our faith pulls into this.
Right.
At this point, I'm divorced now. Okay. So I'm a single dad, and my son is back and forth between his mom's place and my place.
Right.
Every week. Right. So while I'm on the job, that just happens to be the time that he's with me during the week. Oh. So it's not like I can even spend quality time with him. Yeah. And I was remote working when I wasn't traveling. So I was on video calls and video meetings all day long. Right. So when he's home with me, I didn't have the time to give him quality father-son time. Right. So one of the things I used to ask God, I was like, you know, I need more time with my son. I just need more time with my son, but I don't know where I'm going to get it. Right. How's it going to happen? Yeah. And the second thing, too, is my health started to fail because of the amount of time I was putting into work because I had to provide for him. So the two things I kept asking God was I need healing for my health, chronic fatigue and all this stuff, and I need more time with my son. Next thing you know, I get this call.
Oh, look, I like the smile.
I get this call and it says, on Monday you're going to get a call from HR. This is a Friday. Or Thursday. On Monday you're going to get a call from HR. Unfortunately, you were on the list. You're going to lose your job. And there's nothing we can do. Right? And so I get the call from HR. And I have this moment where it's like it's all peaceful as they're saying it to me. I'm very steady. I'm very calm. I'm not anxious about it. They're telling me because I'm thinking about the victory already in my mind. What does this mean for me now? Right. So they give me a very nice severance package. They give me nice insurance coverage for a period of time. Good. What happens immediately? I can now randomly go to my son's school on any day I want and have lunch with him. I can surprise him on any day. And you should see this boy's face light up.
Of course.
He doesn't know I'm coming. Yeah. It got to the point where he asked me to stop coming. I'm serious. I went so
He's
many
like,
times.
I want to play.
He said, listen, because when you come to have lunch with your kids, they put you at a special table, right? Okay. He said, Daddy, I want to have lunch with my friends today. So can you not come for the next couple of days? You know? But imagine, like,
I'm sorry,
to be able to have, but to be able to have that opportunity where I can spend time with him immediately.
Of course. Yeah.
Immediately. Right? So God answered the prayer of that. And then the second thing was that I was able to reverse type 2 diabetes naturally through that process too. I was able to focus on my health. One of the things guys don't do when they're working is they don't pay attention to their health. It's the first thing that they'll sacrifice is their health to make sure they can provide for their family and protect.
See, I resonate with that spending time with your child. Yeah. Right? Especially when they're young.
Right.
Oh gosh, it's core memories, man.
It is.
It's core memories.
One thing I didn't have the time to do is when I was working, I didn't have the time to be silly with him. And I didn't really tolerate the silliness while I was working.
Yeah, well.
Right? Because you're in a different mode, you're in a different mindset. Now that the job is not in the way anymore, we got moments where we can be silly. Yeah. You know? Yeah. We can joke around. We can take we can take the limits off of what's allowable now. And let's be idiots together. Let's be goofballs together. Let's laugh. Let's say stupid, foolish things together that we're going to laugh about, right? And now we're able to have those kinds of moments.
And doesn't it feel good?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There truly is something about laughter and what it does to the soul.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Right? And you laugh over nonsense. Doesn't matter what you laugh about. But together, it might even be an inside joke that nobody else is going to understand.
Right.
But the two of you are, my son and I were just laughing about foolish things. You know what I mean? Or he'll just text the word to me or whatever we've been laughing about. And here we are cracking up over it. You know what I mean?
So but you see, I like that you had that time. One, to build the relationship with your son and build core memories. And two, to experience that going back to that childlike phase where you free up yourself.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I remember like going with Noel, like just going to the park and doing certain things, following them in these slides, and because only children, right? So you are the sibling kind of like you can't sit down and watch.
Right.
You have to really get active.
In that,
Yeah, and it felt good.
It did.
It's a nice relationship building. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you've now gained that freedom.
Right.
So you said you were so family, child, parent, single father, doing his thing. But you mentioned the health part, right? So some people, they'll make sure that they want to stay fit and they won't necessarily prioritize the family as well. Like some people will shift and do the opposite. But you said, no, I'm just driving, I'm working, doing, and then your health was affected. Chronic fatigue, very hard, right?
Yeah.
Is that hard mentally or is it more of a physical experience?
It's both.
Okay.
So it was my chronic fatigue. I fought for 25 years, but I covered it really well. I used to drink, when I moved to the States, I was drinking up to 2 liters of coffee a day just to stay awake.
Oh.
Right, just to keep alert. Especially with the responsibilities I had on my job. I had to be on my A game.
Okay.
At all times,
Yeah.
right? So I was drinking a lot of coffee. Eventually coffee stopped working, so I moved on to the 5-hour energy drinks and whatnot.
Okay.
Right? But these things never gave me 5 hours. It was maybe 2.5, 3 hours at best, right? But what would happen every single day, I would have to take a 3 to 4 hour nap, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Okay.
It was so debilitating, the chronic fatigue. I told the doctor just last summer, as a matter of fact, about a year ago now, I said, if my house was to catch on fire, I'm going to have to let it burn down because I've got no energy to get up. I can't do anything.
Wow.
That's how debilitating it was. My son used to say, Daddy, come, let's go outside and play basketball, let's play Uno, whatever it is, let's play Nintendo Switch. And I'd say to him, look, let me take a nap. When I wake up, I'm all yours. But Natalie, when I woke up, it was time for his mother to pick him up.
Okay.
So now I'm frustrated and I'm angry. How can I let this happen? Right? And then there's the feelings of, now I'm a failure as a father. How could you let this time slip away?
Right.
But then I'm back to being frustrated again. We don't know what's causing this. I'm going to the doctors. We're doing tests. I went on a CPAP machine. We found I'm low testosterone, so I'm taking testosterone replacement therapy now. None of these things are working. What is the problem, right? So I had this chronic fatigue, and when I lost my job, I was able to really zone in and focus and go through process of elimination to finally find something that would work. And when I found out what it was, it was insulin resistance.
Insulin resistance. So I saw a video on that yesterday. Share what insulin resistance is or how it comes about.
Yeah, sure. So insulin resistance is the most prevalent metabolic sickness that we're having today. And it simply is this. One of the roles that insulin has in your body is when you eat foods that are either carbohydrates or sugar, insulin goes into the bloodstream after sugar is there, and it opens your cells and it tells sugar, go into the cells to be used as energy. When your cells don't listen, the more insulin has to come out to do the same job. So I'll give you an analogy. Noah doesn't listen to you when you say, Noah, clean up your room. You spoke to him at a normal level. Noah, clean up your room. You came back 5 minutes later, and he's there sitting down playing video games and he hasn't done nothing. You now, Noah, I said to clean up your room, right? And eventually you're hollering at the kid because he's not listening to you, right? Insulin, very similar. Insulin has to ramp up so much to get blood sugar to go into the cells to be used as energy.
Right.
Eventually, when that happens, you're becoming resistant to insulin. So what should have taken this much insulin to work is now taking this much insulin.
Okay.
So now you're insulin resistant. And with insulin resistance comes diseases like diabetes.
Okay.
Comes symptoms like high blood pressure, high blood sugar. In women, PCOS. In men, erectile dysfunction. Psoriasis, thyroid problems. All of these things are skin tags around your neck or the dark circle around your neck. Those are all signs of insulin resistance. And a lot of insulin resistance that we are experiencing today comes from the modern food diet that we eat.
The modern food diet.
Packaged, boxed, and barcoded foods. So highly processed foods that have a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of sugars in it. Ketogenic lifestyle, medically supervised ketogenic diet for the last 3 years, right? But I was stuck in this place where I couldn't break being a pre-diabetic. I was able to turn back being a diabetic to a pre-diabetic, no medication, but I couldn't break being a pre-diabetic, and I didn't understand why. And I'm searching online, and I'm searching at videos to find out how can I do this naturally. Right? There's a doctor out of the University of Toronto right here named Dr. Jason Fung. Look up Dr. Jason Fung. He has reversed type 2 diabetes in thousands of his patients in his clinic.
Okay.
And I've been following him for probably 5+ years. So I know it's possible. You can do it naturally, and that's the way I wanted to do it. I didn't want to go on medication.
Right.
So I found this video of a doctor talking about these all-natural supplements and how it helps to reduce insulin resistance and puts your body back into a state where it can heal itself, right? And so she said, in my practice, I try to get all of my patients off of medication so they can live their healthiest life. And this is a U.S. doctor saying this.
Yeah.
And so when I heard this U.S. doctor saying this, I said to myself, let me pay attention, because Big Pharma pays doctors big money every time they pull out the pad and they write a prescription for you.
Yeah.
And she's saying, I'm trying to get you off the prescription so you can live. So I said, let me listen to what she says. She said, I put my name behind these supplements as a 90-day money-back guarantee. Give it a try. I said, I'm just going to try this thing for 30 days. Let me just see what it's about.
Right.
And this thing radically changed my life. You remember I told you I was taking 3 to 4 hour naps a day.
Yeah.
And nothing was helping.
Right.
The very first day I started taking these supplements, I went from a 3 to 4 hour nap to a 15-minute nap.
15 minutes?
15 minutes. I never knew what it was when people said, I'm going to take a power 15. What's a power 15? It's a power 3 to 4 hour for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they're saying power 15. Now I know what a power 15 is, right? Day one, I had the energy. I used to have bad brain fog.
Okay.
On the job, I'd be sitting down looking at my computer, and the simplest of emails for me to type up, I can't get the words together to make the sentence right. I was super sharp in my mind now. I had energy all day long, but it didn't feel like coffee energy because I wasn't jittery, I wasn't bouncing, and I didn't have a crash.
Right.
It was sustained. And then on top of that, any cravings that I had for food went away. So I wasn't craving snacking, right? I wasn't craving something salt, sweet, or crunchy.
Right.
All of that went away. And then I started seeing my waist go down. My energy levels go up. I didn't lose any weight yet for the first 45 days. I hadn't lost any weight.
Okay.
And so then the doctor called me 30 days later, and she said, just wanted to get your take on how things are, and I couldn't stop talking. I was telling her all the things it did for me. 3.5 months later, here are my stats being on these supplements. These are all natural, and by the way, it's Health Canada approved right here in Canada.
Okay.
My A1C, which is a marker of your 90-day blood sugar average, was a 6.3, which is clearly in a pre-diabetic range,
Okay.
to a 5.8. They want you to be at 5.7 or below to be normal.
Okay.
So I've almost completely reversed pre-diabetes with these supplements.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, the chronic fatigue went away.
Right.
I only nap on days where I need to. And truly, even on those days I don't. Right? I could get away without the nap.
Yeah.
Secondly, I lost 6 inches on my waist. I went from a size 42 waist to a size 36 waist. I went from a double extra large shirt to a large shirt.
Nice.
Right? My body transformation started going through. I lost 12 pounds.
Good.
I feel the best I've ever felt in life now.
Yeah.
The best. My mood was elevated. So when we talked about previously about having feelings of depression or feeling overwhelmed, this stuff helps to elevate your mood naturally.
Yeah, once you start to feel better.
Yes.
Cognitively, physically.
My confidence level is through the roof now. Yes. I know who I am. I like who I see in the mirror. Right? And I know that I bring value.
Right.
But I have the energy to go behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was able to fix my health issues by finding these all-natural plant-based supplements.
Okay. So, I mean, you want to talk about the products itself, or do you want to talk about the opportunities that are, because there's twofold. Like, I mean, honestly, this is now a business that you are in because you found value in it for yourself.
Right.
Right? And obviously you're sharing this information with people.
Right.
But this is now a part of your business.
It is. You know, I was so impressed with what it did for me, and I have personal conviction about the products that I ended up buying a franchise in the business.
Okay.
And so now I am a distributor for this product. This product can't be bought over the shelves. It's bought through a distributor like myself. Right?
Okay.
And so with this product, it's very simple. It's a very, very simple system. There's 2 pieces to the product. The first is a yerba mate tea.
Right.
And this yerba mate tea is from Argentina and countries in South America. They've been drinking it for thousands of years. It's called the drink of the gods in South America. It has all the nutrients necessary to sustain life. Right? It will suppress hunger. It will elevate your mood, so you're going to feel better.
Yeah. With
suppressing hunger, you're not going to want to snack. You're not going to want to eat as often, right? It also increases your energy levels. There's a synthetic drug out there called Wegovy and Ozempic.
Yeah.
Right? It's a synthetic version of GLP-1. It's a natural hormone that your body secretes to help with your digestion and to suppress hunger. This tea stimulates your own body's production by up to 60% of that.
Okay.
Right? So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is a plant fiber, a mix of 7 different plant fibers that you mix and drink before your heaviest meal. And what that will do is it will prevent the blood sugar spike that we were talking about, which will also prevent the insulin spike coming right behind the sugar.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So now you're preventing those things, allowing insulin to come down. The fiber will also help you keep fuller longer, so you feel what's called satiated or satisfied. So again, you don't have to go snack and eat. That meal that you ate, you feel satisfied for 4 or 5 or 6 hours after you ate. And then fiber is also shown to be very useful in lowering cholesterol.
Okay, so as you can hear, based on personal experience, Stephen's able to share the information on the value of the product. Listen, you can just tell the passion behind the product. Are you able to say the company name, or you don't?
I won't share the company name right now.
That's fine. But if you need to get in touch with it, because if you know, there's a lot of people who are experiencing various health conditions, and you know that it is something that can be corrected. You know, medication is not working. You want something different. Contact Stephen. I'm going to make sure that his information is shared on the screen. If anything, you let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know this. Here's the staggering stats. I'll give you the U.S. stats. 97% of the population in the U.S. This is a study that Harvard did.
Right.
97% of the population of adults in the U.S. are cardiometabolically unhealthy.
Hey.
That means only 7%. Sorry, 93%. That means only 7% of the population is cardiometabolically healthy. 88% of the population has either high blood pressure, high blood sugar,
Yeah.
or high cholesterol.
Yeah.
And the same is true here in Canada.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
here's the thing. People of color,
Yeah. Oh boy.
we're at twice as risk.
Yes.
The data shows, the numbers show, it doesn't matter where we are in the world,
Yeah.
we're at higher risk and the numbers are higher for our populations.
Okay. Gangram, in light of time, because today was a full episode, we did a, what do you call it, 360? Yeah, man, we did a 360.
Covered a lot today.
Yes, but I appreciate you sharing so much, and I do want you to, there's opportunities within this business as well, right? You've left your corporate, well, not you left, it
let me
happened
go.
that life ended up
Right.
being this way, but this is something that you see a value, that you've actually decided to get your own franchise.
Correct.
And right now, with people who are looking for another source of income, I know that you shared with me the fact that, hey, there's opportunities, you know?
There is.
So share a little bit of what that looks like, or when someone can connect to you and how they can find out more.
Sure. You know, with this business, we are a privately held company. There's no debt on the books, right? There's no other franchise that you can get in the world that costs you nothing net at the end of the day, right? And this business is addressing needs that people have globally.
Okay.
When you look at the global numbers of diabetes and insulin resistance, people don't have to be on medication for life.
Right.
This stuff reverses the disease, works better than medication with no side effects. Everyone needs it. And for folks in Canada, we're Health Canada approved.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
a battle
important.
to get through that door to be Health Canada approved, but this product is Health Canada approved. But aside from that, from the business perspective, you can own your own business, work for yourself, do this part-time, do this full-time. I've decided to do it full-time.
Right.
I won't be returning to corporate America ever again, right? This is going to be my legacy business that I create. Last year alone in our group, the company made 11 millionaires,
Hey.
right? So there's a lot of opportunity, and we're just getting off the ground.
Okay.
Just getting off the ground in North America. We've been around for 30 years,
Right.
but hardly anyone knows about it.
Okay. So, hey, if here, you know about it here.
That's
But
right.
for you to know more, you need to contact Steven, right? So I would like to thank you for taking the time from your trip to come and sit down with me on the Reset with Nat podcast and share, you know, vulnerable life stories, but then also sharing the best part about life is that we do not have to stay where we are. We can
Right.
rediscover and redefine what our lives are, no matter what. It's not easy, right? But at the same time, with a little bit of hope, faith, you know what I mean, support, it can happen.
Yeah.
So, and then also speaking out to or on behalf of some men, like a lot of men, that don't necessarily get the opportunity to share,
Right.
right? Your voice is valued.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the platform to be
Of
able to do
course.
this. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Gangram.
You got it.
All right. Oh. I get excited and I turned off. Oh, I forgot about y'all. Listen, that was such a great episode. I'm always happy to reconnect. I'm always happy to have, you know, these conversations and learn new things. And then it also helps me to go home and, you know, pay a little bit more attention to my boo, you know? Yeah. And then also when it comes to health, I'm learning things that can help with, you know, my personal journey with health. And know that it's not just one way, right? There's not just that one way. Explore other options, and then the other part is family. I love that. I love that you have the time freedom. I love that you value that, because that's very much something that's important to me. Just know that, you see, when they get to that age of 12, 13, they kind of start to shift and isolate.
Right.
So it is important early to make sure that you have those bonding moments.
Right.
You don't lose them, but you just kind of, you know how it was being a teenager. So, yeah, Gangram, thank you for being here. Thank you all for tuning in. like, subscribe, share this episode, and drop a comment, because why not?